Buddhism is an ancient tradition with answers to life's biggest questions today. Why do we suffer? How do we relate to other beings? And how do we make the world a happier and more peaceful place for everyone? Our mission at BDK America is to help people understand Buddhism better. Are you looking to start learning about Buddhism or dig deeper? BDK America offers free books and videos for peoples of all ages and levels. Our most popular book, The Teaching of Buddha, is available to read in English and 46 other languages in physical, PDF, and audiobook formats. Visit our website for our latest publications and order your own free copy today.
Hi, how are you today? Hopefully, you have been encouraged by the upbeat messages of the sacred self and the Buddha nature in the past two shows. Today, we wish to explore another dimension of the teaching of the second mark of existence. Life is interdependent. So far, we have discussed three dimensions of this mark, which I'm calling cosmic, societal, and sacred. In the cosmic dimension, we learn how each of us is part of a supportive, interconnected cosmic net. Second, in the societal dimension, we saw that our failure or success in fostering the spirit of interdependence within global and local communities can respectively lead to either conflict or cooperation. Third, in a sacred dimension, we realize that interdependence does not mean the loss of the individual, but rather is an affirmation of the sacred nature of all living beings. I would like to refer to the fourth dimension we are exploring today as emptiness. It needs to be emphasized again that emptiness does not mean that things do not exist, but rather that things are empty of substantial entity. Any substantial entity is anything that emerged or exists all by itself without depending on anything else. Then, as we understand and apply the teachings of this mark, we will inevitably develop an approach to life of letting go. Letting go does not mean to be indifferent, uncaring, or have no opinion at all. Instead, letting go means not to be too attached or cling so hard to your opinion that you lose sight of the bigger picture, or to believe that your view is the only correct one. Just as when you hold a newborn baby, you need to hold gently, but not cling so hard as to crush the baby. This concept of emptiness was made famous by an eminent Buddhist thinker whom many, particularly Mahayana Buddhists, consider to be the most important figure after the Buddha. His name is Nagarjuna, a man who lived in southern India around the year 200 of the Common Era. Despite his later fame, in his younger years before he became a Buddhist, Nagarjuna sometimes got himself into trouble. On one occasion, he and three of his close friends sneaked into the female quarters of the royal palace in hopes of seducing the women. They also wanted to test their magical skill by making themselves invisible. But unfortunately, they quickly learned their magical abilities failed miserably. Nagarjuna managed to escape, but the guards killed the other three. Though he escaped unharmed, the experience had a deep impact on him. He began to understand that selfish desire is a root of suffering and magical feats are useless. This understanding helped Nagarjuna to turn to the Buddhist teachings of the Buddhist path. Among Nagarjuna's many writings, the commentary on the Middle Way contains the following famous passage. Interdependent phenomena are called emptiness. The meaning of this statement is essentially the same as the second mark of existence. All phenomena lack substantial entity. What Nagarjuna did was to point out the relative nature of our experience. In other words, how I experience things is not absolute. For example, the same objects can be experienced differently over time, or the same object can be understood differently by different people. Demonstrating this point is a well-known story of the blind man and the elephant from ancient India. Once upon a time, 6 blind men wanted to know what an elephant looked like. Each felt different parts of the mighty beast. The first man, who felt the side of the elephant's body, said that it was like a wall. The second man grabbed the lower end of the tusk and said it was like a spear. The third man, who felt the trunk, reported that the elephant was like a snake. The fourth man, upon touching a leg, claimed it was like a tree trunk. The fifth man, feeling the ear, said it was surely like a fan. And the last man, who grabbed the tail, thought it was like a rope. So, we have the same animal, but 6 different perceptions and opinions. Such is the nature of our experiences. Due to our 3 poisons of greed, hatred, and ignorance, we are not able to see things as they really are. How are we to apply the truth of emptiness to our lives? Nagarjuna's answer was don't be attached, but instead be open. He cautioned us against making hard and fast judgments to decide your likes and dislikes, and then basing your sense of happiness and unhappiness on them. Of course, as members of today's modern society with families to raise and jobs to maintain, we can't help but making judgments that are good and bad and right and wrong in nature. For instance, we need to make judgments about the daycare center and its teachers for our child. Nevertheless, Nagarjuna's message calls for us to be aware of the nature of our perceptions and judgments, realizing that what we experience is not the entire picture, as in the case of the elephant and the blind man. However, that does not mean that we need to be uncertain and lack confidence when we make judgments and decisions. Hence, as mentioned earlier, our attitude and action should be like holding the baby gently, but not too tightly. We should not be overly and unduly attached to our beliefs as the one and only possibility. Instead, we ought to be always open to other possibilities, much like another of my favorite lines. The mind is like a parachute, for it works best when it is open. Allow me now to tell you a story from ancient China, which comes to us from the Taoist tradition. Near the Great Wall lived an old man who had a fine horse. One day the horse ran away to the barbarian territory. When his friends and relatives heard the tale, they all came to comfort him. They never expected the old man to say, "Who knows, having my horse run away might bring me luck." Several months later, the old man's horse returned, bringing back a horse from the barbarians. Again, his friends and neighbors all came, this time to congratulate him. But he responded that even if something went right, the end result could still go wrong. Regrettably, the old man's words were right on the mark. His son tried to ride the untamed horse, and it threw him off, breaking his leg. Again, family and neighbors arrived to express their sympathy. The old man told them, "Although it's too bad that my son broke his leg, it may turn out to be for the best." A year later, the barbarians attacked and broke through the Great Wall in force. All the healthy young men were called to war, and the vast majority was killed. The old man's son, on the other hand, was spared because his bad leg kept him out of the military service. This story points out that in all good fortune there may lurk bad, and vice versa, expressing the truth that good and bad fortune are relative, interdependent, and ever-changing. I'm sure that most everyone has experienced breaking up. Breaking up is indeed hard to do, especially when you still wanted the relationship to continue. It's hard to accept the fact that the person you still care for no longer feels the same about you. In such a situation, the breakup causes sheer pain, and you wonder what you did to deserve the suffering. Well, almost all of us with the experience of breaking up have found that we were wrong. But we have met someone else who is just as right for us. And in hindsight, we come to see that there were many problems in our former relationship that no amount of effort would have overcome. So, breaking up was best for us. For not only did we learn about our mistakes and our shortcomings, but it also freed us to meet our current partner. For many of us, our greatest regret is that we were so attached to our former partner and suffered far more than we should have. I'm sure that many of you can identify with all this. The implications of the points are aptly captured in today's opening passage. People naturally fear misfortune and long for good fortune. But if the distinction is carefully studied, misfortune often turns out to be good fortune, and good fortune to be misfortune. The wise person learns to meet the changing circumstances of life with an equitable spirit, being neither elated by success nor depressed by failure. Thus, one realizes the truth of non-duality. Well, I hope that you gain something worthwhile from today's show that you can learn from and apply to your own life. Please tune in next week, for I'm sure that our returning guest, Professor Gene Reeves, will have something worthwhile to share when we discuss Guanyin, the Bodhisattva of compassion.
We at Bukkyo Dendo Kyokai pursue peace and happiness for people around the world. We have published the Buddhist teachings into 41 languages and donated our publication to hotels and other facilities in 55 countries. We would like to share the Buddhist teachings with people around the world. That's our mission. Visit our website for more information.